Welcome back to this week's episode of The Playbook. Just off the back of a run club this morning, if anybody's listening to this and they're thinking about moving to Dubai, thinking about moving into a career real estate, or they've already moved over here, definitely reach out in regards to The Playbook and Run Club. I haven't really mentioned it over the past few weeks, but each week on a Saturday morning at 7 a.m, about a group of 20-25 of us will meet at Kite Beach for a quick slow 4 kilometer run, but it doesn't take too long, then a coffee afterwards. By no means is it a run club in a sense of you have to be a professional runner. There's all levels that are welcome, and we're not really trying to commercialize it and make it into a Dubai run club, because there's plenty of those out there and they seem shit. So we're just trying to create a space where there's not much frills, and just other genuine sound people who I struggled to meet with before I set it up. So now it's a good vessel for people in similar opportunity or similar position as me. Maybe they're coming from Ireland and they don't play, Gaelic football, and they want to connect with people that are similar to like themselves. Maybe they could be from any part of the world and they're looking for people to connect with. Well, this is the space exactly for those people. So more than welcome for anybody who's thinking about moving over or in the process of moving over, or who's already landed. You'd be more than welcome to meet us for a run. In the last week, I don't really think a whole pile has happened compared to some of my previous weeks. I think a lot has happened over the past few months. 2025, if the rest of the year is like the first 2 months, then I can only imagine what is in store for 2025. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, but in a positive, extremely positive way. A lot of it has come, I think I had kind of wrestled with the idea of being unsure, being uncertain about, where I'm going, what I'm doing, getting distracted by other opportunities outside of work. And really, since the clarity moment just before the Christmas, or actually during the new year, and realigning my focus just specifically on real estate, the amount that has done for my well-being, and everything kind of seems to be tying in together nicely as I've spoke about. It's all kind of making sense, and previously it didn't really make sense to me, and it all felt here and there and kind of all over the place, but now it's finally starting to make sense. The next big thing for me in terms of outside in my personal life is be setting my sights on another triathlon in the middle of April, so just before it gets nice and hot. That'll be my last triathlon of what I'm going to call the season, and I'm going to focus and try and take 3 months of, I wouldn't call it rest, but 3 months of kind of going back to the drawing board, working on more things in the gym, and trying to point to my weak spots, so that in autumn, there is no seasons here, but in September, there's only hot and cold. There's only winter and summer here. But once it starts to get in September, I can start looking more towards doing an Ironman 70.3, because that was one of my goals for 2025, and I'm keeping it front of mind. I've really got a habit of setting goals in New Year's, and kind of setting broad goals. And this year I was just mindful about the fact that I wanted to set goals and really go after them and achieve them and keep them front of mind. So this is in alignment with that. And any decision that I make I'm asking myself, is this in alignment with where I'm going with my goals? And if you set goals and you've already forgotten them, or you forgot thinking about them, it's the 22nd of February now. So I'd ask you to revisit your goals, look back at them wherever they've written down, and realign yourself and ask yourself, is the thing that I'm doing in the current moment moving me towards or away from that goal? And that's the way that I view everything that I do in my life. And I have to be ruthless with that, because as I'm going to get onto the topic of conversation, you have to be really ruthless with the things you decide to focus on, because you can't do everything. Although it feels like that you've got endless opportunity, that you can do whatever you like in this world. You can, but once you decide to do something, you have to pick that and only that for a long period of time, unfortunately. Like, I've just come to grips with the fact that, there's some things that I won't be proficient at. There's some things that, unfortunately, I'm going to sacrifice, and for the time being, I'm okay with that. They can take a backseat. And then there's certain things that are priority, and everything that doesn't stay in alignment with that get taken out. So this week I was listening to a podcast between Alex Hormozy and Stephen Bartlett. Wouldn't be a big Stephen Bartlett fan, to be honest, lately. I think his podcast have gone a bit, I don't know. If anybody is listening and listen to Stephen Bartlett, they probably know what I mean. But I really, really enjoyed, obviously, this Alex Hormozy podcast, like I do with all of his podcasts. And a thing that he touches upon is I don't even know what it's called. Wait, let me pull it up. The 5 stages of opportunity hopping. So these are the 5 stages of opportunity hopping. And he spoke about this in accordance with business and entrepreneurship. And he was talking about, the 5 stages of opportunity hopping to Stephen Bartlett and explaining each of them. Straight away, I can extrapolate lessons out of this and just clearly align it with some things within real estate. As I've said in the past, and I've said before, and I'm continually saying, any sort of business concepts or business books or entrepreneur books, there are things and lessons to be taken out of those and applied specifically into real estate as a broker here in Dubai. Because again, it's an industry, it's a job in which that nobody tells you what to do. You can be creative with what you do, and you can come up with creative ideas in order to make more money, close more deals, or have a better service. So what he spoke about was the 5 stages of opportunity hopping, but this is essentially where somebody would look at an opportunity, partake in that opportunity, and then get distracted by some other opportunities and then move elsewhere. And the stages essentially look like the first stage, and I'm going to apply this into real estate so people have a good picture of what this looks like. And maybe this could be you. Maybe you could be opportunity hopping. Maybe you could be distracted. Maybe you could be unfocused. And it's funny, before I get into it, a few weeks ago when we spoke in a team meeting about what are the attributes of a bad broker, we specifically said distracted, unfocused, undisciplined, and not specialized. Like, those 4 things were things that came up by the brokers themselves. So like, when people are doing the opposite of what they said a bad broker, like, they acknowledge what a bad broker would do, but then continue to do that. So it's like, I mean, I didn't tell you what a bad broker does. You said it, and we had a discussion about that. So I'm not sure why people continue to do the things that they do, regardless of them knowing that it's not the right thing to do. Well, I mean, I think that's the human condition, isn't it? We all know what we should be doing, but we refuse to do it. We all know things that we shouldn't do, but we continue to do it. This takeaway, this bad food, this thing that's unhealthy for me binge watching this episode until 11 o'clock at night. I know it's bad, but I suppose the payoff isn't that clear. Anyways, I don't want to get down a rabbit hole before I even begin, but what he speaks about first is the uninformed optimism. Uninformed optimism. So imagine you haven't joined real estate. You're a brand new broker. You haven't even set foot in the city, or you haven't even started a job. You see the job title. You see the video on YouTube. You hear from somebody about, oh, did you hear about that guy that moved to Dubai? He used to work with us, whatever. And did you see his Instagram? To see the amount of deals that he's closing? Did you see the millions that he made on that deal? I wonder what the commission could be like. And tax-free. I can do that. I could do real estate. Either go down a rabbit hole on YouTube, or maybe something came up on Netflix. It's just like, selling real estate in Dubai. Wow. That's amazing. So this like, you're not informed, obviously, because you have no idea about the role. Even from an interview, somebody might tell you that it's quite difficult, or somebody actually might be honest and say that it's not all that it's meant to be. Sometimes, well, majority of the time, that's not going to be the case from some of these big companies, because the recruiters are going to sell you the dream in order to get you over, because they don't really care about your livelihood. They don't really mind about, giving you false promises, because once you're in the door, the recruiter doesn't mind they're getting paid, so it doesn't matter to them. So maybe you've been set up in an interview. Maybe you haven't been informed, but you choose also not to be informed. And that's normal. That's part and parcel of it. Going into any new opportunity for the first time, you've got this uninformed optimism. You don't know how hard it is going to be. Yeah, I'd love to do a marathon. Yeah, I'd love to do a triathlon. That looks unreal. The finish line looks unreal. It's like, yeah, you like the finish line, but you don't know about the training yet. So we're going to learn about that soon. So you start your first few days in real estate. You start your first week. You start your second week. Then you get that informed pessimism. You get that smack in your face and you're like, oh shit, this isn't what I expected. This is not as easy as I expected. This is far more difficult. This is going to take longer than expected. People are telling me to fuck myself when I speak to them. Now I'm getting a negative viewpoint of this industry. And now you see the shit. Now you see all of the bad sides to it. And then slowly but surely, if you start focusing on the negative parts of it, you enter into the third stage, which is called the Valley of Despair, according to Alex Hormozy. And this is when most people jump ship. This is when most people fold the cards. Or this is when most people in real estate move to another company. Or better yet, they move to another area. Or even better yet, they move into sales. Or even better than that, they want to do off plan. Or they want to do commercial. The Valley of Despair is when people decide to jump ship. The Valley of Despair is when they start looking at the other mountains, at the other hills, and they're like, oh, wow, that opportunity actually over there. That person is making money in that area. That guy's making money in Maidan. Oh, they're making money in sales. Oh, they're making money in off plan. But this is the uninformed optimism again. They don't see the shit over there. But anyways, they decide to go for it. They decide to get distracted by moving into sales, or they decide to get distracted by moving into another area. And then they move into the other area and it's not as easy as they expected. Then they get the informed pessimism. Then they're in there for a few weeks. Then they realize that it's actually not difficult. They haven't spent enough time to progress and they're just in the valley of despair again. This cycle continues and continues and continues. People hop from opportunity to opportunity. People are in this area. Then they realize that, that area is not really made what it's meant to be. Then they move to another area. They're like, yeah, actually, I thought it was going to be faster than this. I thought there was going to be, more people who were willing to speak to me. I thought more people would let me list their property. No, this area is not going to quite cut it. Then they move. After another 6 months, like, maybe it's actually leasing. Then they move into sales. Then they're like, oh, actually, maybe it's the company. They spend another 6 months there. Then they move. So it's like, in a quick flash, they've been in the industry for 2 years. They've moved to 3 or 4 companies. They've moved from area to area to area, all through the disciplines of lease and sales, off plan, whatever. And there you have a fully rounded shit broker who's completely distracted, completely unfocused, unable to delay gratification and unable to stick in it, go past that stage, go past the informed pessimism and go past the valley of despair, because what's on the other side, which I'll get into, is what's worthwhile. But your typical person who is short-term thinking, typical person who thinks in days or weeks or months instead of years, will just move and move and move and move and move, and they won't get to the next point. They'll blame the company, they'll blame the area, they'll blame the industry or the market, and then they'll just keep doing that and move from company to company to company. And a massive issue with this is that companies keep hiring them because they grade experience based off time spent, not in terms of things done. So then that broker washes up and that broker is sitting down in an interview across from me. My recruiter has just brought him in. The recruiter was like, you're going to like this guy. He's had experience in these top 2 companies. He's been in the industry for 2 years. And I'm just like, he sounds decent. Okay, let's see what he's done. And I sit down and I get a good picture of who that broker is straight away. Okay, how many different areas have you been? Okay, why'd you move from this company? Why'd you move from this company? Why'd you move from that area? Why'd you move from this area? Oh, I don't really think the market is where it is. Oh, the company wasn't really, what it's made out to be. They weren't really giving me support, or they weren't really giving us, the environment wasn't great or whatever. It's like, well, none of that is broker. None of that is important, because as I heard recently, winners win and losers lose. And losers focus on winners. And winners focus on winning. And losers will always get focused on the things in their external environment, the things to blame, the things to push the blame on. But winners take complete responsibility for all of their actions, good and bad. But the typical broker who tends to wash up in this industry moves from company to company. And as I said, discipline to discipline. And they never really spend enough time to get into the next stage. Now, if anybody wants to look this up and see the graph for themselves, because maybe they might be struggling to hold on because I might be going from here and there, it's the 5 stages of opportunity hopping by Alex Hormozy. Just take a look. The next stage is stage 4. If anybody decides to ride through the valley of despair, then they will have informed optimism when things start going their way, when things actually start working out, and they've got this rounded idea that it's not going to take a few weeks, that the area is not even important, that the company is not even important. It's up to themselves to decide if they want to be successful or not. So this informed optimism gets them to where they need to be. It takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of resistance. It takes somebody who's extremely strong-headed to get through that valley of despair, and the time in which where you start getting very pessimistic and you get the information that you haven't been shared before you moved into the industry. And it all depends. It's all very individual based. Like, I mean, the valley of despair can be 6 months for one person, but it can be 4 weeks for somebody else. So the unfair part of it is that you don't know how long it's going to last for. It's the uncertainty that kills. So if you're in the industry and you're listening to this and you're in what you might call the valley of despair, where you can't see light at the end of the tunnel, you don't know just yet if it's going to work out, and you've got that informed pessimism right now, and you're in the valley of despair and things aren't working out, and it's not all that it was made out to be, and you're having those doubts and you're looking at faraway hills, you have to remind to just focus on the present, come back to who you are, focus on the process, and understand that you don't know how long you're going to be in this valley of despair for. But I guarantee it's not the area. I guarantee it's not the company. I guarantee it's not the fact that you're in leasing and there's more money to be made in sales. I guarantee it. It's up to you. Somebody doesn't set up a company, it go under, and then just blame the market, saying, it's their fault. They didn't like my product. It's like, no, the product was wrong. It's like this is such a stupid analogy, but it's like in every Gordon Ramsay Kitchen Nightmares episode, when they go in and he sits down and is like, what's the problem? And they're like, oh, we don't get enough customers. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, no shit, but why is that? So it's like, the same goes back to this business. The same goes back to real estate. It's just like, okay, so what's the problem? I'm not closing deals. I'm not getting inquiries. Yeah, no shit. But why is that? Why exactly is that? And what are you going to do to change it? What are you going to do in order to increase the likelihood that you're going to close? What is it that you're doing but not doing enough of? Where are the edges the corners that you're cutting? What are the things that you're leaving on the table? Do you actually feel satisfied when you leave and go home in the evenings? Are you distracted? Are you unfocused? Can you not spend, an hour and a half of productive time spent in deep focus work without getting distracted? Are you actually giving it your all? Have you tested the sample size? Have you called through everybody in your area before you come to the judgment that maybe it's not the area? Maybe it's you. But Alex Hormozy talks about the fact that if you see through this informed optimism, then you reach success and fulfillment. I had to read it there. You reach success and fulfillment, and that's stage 5. I think the big thing, because the y-axis of this whole curve, it goes up and then down into the valley of despair, and then it goes up again into informed optimism, and then fulfillment and achievement. The x-axis is time, and the thing about the time is there's no time stamps on it. You don't know how long it's going to be. For this person over here, it's going to be 6 months. For this person over here, it's going to be 12 months. It's completely independent, and it's completely individualistic and person dependent and situation dependent, and there's so many different factors that are outside of that impact this person. Like, for example, I was speaking to somebody who's brand new to industry, and they were in an interview with me there this week, and he was saying how long it takes in order for someone to be successful or someone to start closing. And it's like, well, it's completely up to the individual. Like, in this industry, you don't get rewarded for the amount of time you've been in it in terms of days or months or, years. You get rewarded in terms of the amount of hours you spent doing the job. Because let's take somebody who has been doing the job for 6 months and then they finally close. Well, we could just get somebody to do double the amount of work and then they get the same results in 3 months. And I mean double the amount of same work. I don't even mean double of the amount of quality work. Well, then it's like, well, could they do it in 1 month? Well, could they do it in 3 months? Well, sorry, 3 weeks. Could they do it even faster and faster and faster if the quality of their work improves? When I say quality of work, all I mean is time spent doing the thing, time spent uninterrupted. Because it's such a shame that nobody talks about this, because everybody assumes that people work the same amount if we work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. And everybody views it as the same level playing field, but it's just not the case whatsoever. Like, some person could be having 10x the input or 10x the output, excuse me. They could have 10x the output, 10x the leverage, even though they're working in the same amount of time. Because this person has become so methodical and they've become so time efficient and they have become so focused. They've become undistractable. Their processes are so streamlined. To give an example, in my previous company, everybody used to manually dial phone numbers. And on my first week, I was just like, I can't believe people are doing this when we have a digital dialer on our desktop. So for me, one time efficient way for me to quicken that up was to start copy and pasting numbers from my data sheet into the digital dialer. There was even 2 lines that I would call the same number. I would call 2 numbers for the same person at the same time, because in my head, this person wouldn't be able to pick up the phone twice if I called both their numbers. And that was going to get me through twice the amount of numbers. It was going to get me through the same amount of numbers in half the time. That's one example in terms of calls. But I mean, the other example is somebody who decides to only focus on doing the work and nothing outside of that. Somebody who is undistracted by conversations in the office. Somebody who understands that taking an hour for lunch is going to cost them. Who's somebody who understands that they don't have to over-index on training, that they will learn on the job, and that's okay. Somebody that understands that they have to be informed about their area and speak to people. So the quality of the conversations are different compared to somebody who's just winging it with no information to hand. It's a number of factors, but the number of factors will be clear if you have a deep understanding of what this job entails and the clear behaviors that are rewarded. In any good company, the behaviors will be rewarded are the behaviors that are important, and the underlying behavior is what you should focus and spend your time on. Like in my company, there's clear KPIs and what we expect from people. And if somebody was just to follow those systems, then it's really difficult for them not to be successful, and to give it the chance and give it the time. Because if you're in the valley of despair, as I said, you don't know how long it's going to be or how long it's going to take. And time again, I see the same story with brokers. And it's such a shame, because like, I can't get in their head and tell them to focus. It's only up to the individual to focus themselves. It really grinds my gears, like, because I can only tell them, like, I can only help them see why it's important to be focused and why it's important to not be distracted. And even though they can nod their head and agree, then they could just turn around and just do something completely different. And after that, it's not up to me to really monitor them exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. And that's a shame. It's like when brokers are just like, maybe leasing isn't it, maybe I should do sales, or maybe my area is in this and maybe I should do that. And even after that I highlight that it's not about the area, that they choose to get distracted anyways. And it's normal. This isn't me shaming it. Like, this isn't me being like, you should whip yourself mentally. if you're starting to get unfocused, or if you're starting to doubt the process, or doubt the area, or doubt, doing leasing or doing sales or doing offline. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the first step is being aware of it, and the first step is taking stock and being conscious. Like, and being aware of some of the things that your own brain is tricking you into believing. Like, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What are the thoughts that are coming into your head about this industry, and what are the doubts that you're having? And write those down, and then look at them a second time, and just be like, is this actually valid? Is this actually true? Or is this just my mind playing tricks? Because we're so easily able to trick ourselves and fool ourselves. Like, so many times I can fall into that trap myself. So each thought that enters your head isn't true, isn't your own thought. It doesn't mean that you have to live by it and swear by it. You can have two opposing thoughts at the same time. But if you're feeling confused, or if you're feeling distracted, or if you feel like there's something that, if you feel distracted by, or you're kind of taking the eye off the ball, then now is the time to course correct. Now is the time to really get super specific and focus back on the thing that you should be doing, or thing you've been advised to do by somebody who has brought you into this industry. Or somebody who is your manager, or somebody who's, close to you, and they know, and they can see from the other side of the fence. Like, as a broker in the Palm, like, anytime, it's so strange, like, because like anytime a sales conversation would come up, I was like, I'm just gonna get you to speak to one of my colleagues. I'd never try and like get distracted by it. Or if I just wouldn't have that many sales conversations, because all I'm talking about is leasing on the Palm. And the knee-jerk reaction for me the second I get a property outside of my area is to refer it. Like, and I wasn't even, there wasn't even super, super strict for us to do that. I was just like, that's just what I'd done. And I can see in hindsight the massive benefit from it, because all of my deals have been on the Palm, beside one sale that was an off-plan resale. But I would rather not get distracted by an attractive opportunity that seems attractive on the outset, but just diving into it, I realize that it's just an absolute waste of time. And this is why I don't understand if a broker lists a unit outside of their area. It's just like, that's your only option. That is literally your only shot. And once the clients say, "What, do you have any other options?" then you become a specialist of another area that you don't even focus in. And so begins the wild goose chase. So maybe you could be distracted. Maybe you could be doubting the industry. But I think taking stock and self-reflecting and taking a step back from the painting sometimes can give you clarity. Like, I've gone through those uncertain phases. I've gone through those distracted phases where, and it's caused so much internal chaos, like, and so much internal strife, like, even within the, like, with things outside the industry, like what seemed like attractive opportunities, and that informed optimism of, okay, wow, I could do that. But then even just scratching the surface of that thing, you're like, oh my God, I did not realize the can of worms I've just opened here. And whilst you're getting distracted on the thing that you're looking towards, you're leaving your business unattended, and you're leaving the most important thing unattended. And you're just allowing for other brokers to come in and take your business, or you're just allowing failure to occur because you're doing two things or three things badly instead of one well. So I think that was essentially it today. I think just wanted to touch upon that because it's something that's front of mind for me from the conversation that I heard between Alex Ramosi and Stephen Bartlett. There's other things that I've taken into the job and other kind of lessons I've taken from that and applied to my life and the job. And I would ask for you to do the same. I mean, if you're listening to any of these podcasts by these people within the business space, like Alex Ramosi, it's like, how can I take this into my business? How can I take this into my life as a broker? And yeah, I think it's just can be a common theme coming up for people who are new in the industry. If you're in the industry for a few months, this is just part and parcel of the job. This is part and parcel of the thing itself. Like everybody goes through that kind of uncertainty and valley of despair, so to speak. Now it can last 2 weeks for some people and it can last 2 months for some others. So I suppose it's a ticking time bomb when your savings are draining. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. That's essentially it for now, us for us this week. Um, I didn't even realize my bike was in the frame for like all of the podcast. That is my new indoor bike. It's not an indoor bike; it's an indoor bike trainer. And to say that there was a puddle of sweat in the ground last night, clean up on aisle 5. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you in the next one.